The Yuuzhan Vong were the tenacious black-blooded race that would stop at nothing waging holy crusades to appease their twisted deities. But what are the Yuuzhan Vong? So, before I go any further, it's important to note that the Yuuzhan Vong are now considered to be non-canon or legends in the Star Wars universe. For this reason, they won't be coming up in any of the series. But this is an incredibly fun subject, and I know a lot of people wanted to learn more about them. So, for that reason, let's continue. So, the Yuuzhan Vong are what's called an extragalactic race. This means they originate from outside the Star Wars galaxy in one of their own. They share many biological features with humans, however are often slightly heavier and taller, with an average lifespan that lasts 3 times as long as the average human. They were pale skin and had blue sacs under their eyes, and these sacs would expand and retract. In fact, this is a visual sign of how a Yuuzhan Vong felt about a situation, as they didn't use normal standard facial indicators. They also had short stub noses and very thin black hair. Now, very little is known about the Yuuzhan Vong's origins since they are from their own galaxy. It's believed that they were a relatively peaceful, force-sensitive race who lived on the world of Yuuzhan, an organic living world, until their world became caught between 2 warring droid civilizations. Luckily, the Vong, with the aid of their living planet, managed to bioengineer creations that helped them push the droid civilizations into retreat. Now, this is an incredibly important event because this led to a massive culture shock for the Vong. From this point, they began to despise everything mechanical in nature. It became seen as sacrilege to their gods, so they seek to rid their galaxy of all technology. The Vong really did treasure life, and they saw anything that wasn't organic as a pollutant, kind of a naturalistic point of view. If something exists, it's devoured by something bigger, and so on. Everything creates life essentially, and that might sound nice, but the Vong destroyed anything that didn't comply with this. They saw the early combustion engine as the original abomination. So, the Vong Empire doesn't use technology, but how do they flourish? How do they travel through space? Well, a specialist rank in the Vong known as the Sharpers are in charge of bioengineering. As I mentioned, the Vong's entire world was one living organism. This meant that they were experts at manipulating them. For this reason, everything was bioengineered. Their ships were made from a specialist coral and grown, their armour fashioned from living crabs, and their weapons were a serpent known as an amphistaff. The Vong created all manner of weaponry and technology that could more than rival modern technology, including advanced communication systems, hull-melting plasma launchers, and deadly plagues. Now, the Vong did manage to purge their own galaxy of all unorganic technology and enslaved all other sentient species in a brutal and bloody campaign. However, after all their enemies were defeated, the Vong clans turned on one another in a civil war. So, not much is known about the Vong civil war, apart from it resulted in the destruction of their homeworld. It's believed that the destruction of Vong Ta led to the Vong becoming detached from their bios, leading them to becoming detached from the Force altogether. The Vong cannot be detected or affected by the Force, meaning they are a lethal foe for all Force sensitives. Yuuzhan Vong culture is almost entirely dependent on their religion, known as the True Way. Their deity's chief is known as Yuuzhan. They were said to have destroyed themselves in order to create all life. For this reason, the idea of sacrifice and pain are key in Vong culture. They believe only through pain and sacrifice can they achieve their goals. It's for this reason that Yuuzhan Vong priests often demand sacrifice for appeasement of their gods. As well as this, biological enhancements are key amongst their people, particularly warriors, often in the form of mutilation carried out by Sharpers. They would have extreme pain thrust upon them and have their body parts replaced with other creatures, making them more effective. The more extreme the augmentation, the more respect the Vong demanded. However, they would never do these enhancements that would hinder them, as the ultimate goal was to make progress. An example of this was having an eye replaced with a venom-spitting creature, or having bone carved into armour, but nothing was really off the table for these fanatics. Vong were born into a strictly segmented class system. Workers, priests, sharpers, and warriors, each strictly confined to their own class. Workers being made up of slaves as well as dishonoured Vongs, either ones who had committed blasphemy, were deformed, or whose bodies had rejected their brutal enhancements, as this was seen as a sign of weakness. Priests and Sharpers were highly regarded as they formed Vong culture and technology, and warriors were the ones who would fulfill their god's will in their brutal campaigns, all of which were commanded by a supreme overlord. The Vong's obsession with pain and sacrifice made them a formidable opponent. They acted aggressively in war, and when facing defeat they would opt for their suicidal counterattack, as in Vong culture, sacrifice and dying in battle was seen as the most honourable of deaths. Ultimately, the Yuuzhan Vong's utter dedication to their deities and their obsession with self-sacrifice and pain, combined with their unusual living technology, made them a lethal opponent. But what do you think of the Vong? Psychotic zealots or dedicated warriors on a crusade? Thanks for watching, please like and sub for more content, and don't miss the next video when we'll cover what would happen if the Yuuzhan Vong invaded during the Clone Wars. And please follow me on Twitter at The Lore Guy for regular updates. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.